Woodrow Wilson was born on December 29, 1856 in Staunton, Virginia, and died on February 3, 1924 in Washington, D.C. Woodrow Wilson was a brilliant scholar, a determined reformer, and an idealist. He led an unwilling nation through World War I and into peace. Though his peace plan was never completely implemented, it stands as a model for nations today. As the originator of the League of Nations, he may be considered the father of today's United Nations.
Born in Virginia, Woodrow Wilson was the son of a Presbyterian minister, and in 1912 he became the 28th President of the United States. He was also the president of Princeton University and the governor of New Jersey. While governor, he instituted political reforms and refused to participate in machine politics. He tried to maintain the ideals of democracy and decency his whole life. As president, Woodrow Wilson gained public approval by lowering tariffs, reforming banking and trade laws, and dealing with a revolution in Mexico. He was re-elected in 1916. At that time, World War I was at its height in Europe. The American people wanted to stay out of the war, but Wilson's attempts to mediate a peace failed, and German submarines began attacking American merchant ships. On April 6, 1917, Wilson reluctantly signed a declaration of war, which, as he said, was necessary to make the world safe for democracy. In 1918, Wilson gave Congress his famed 14 points for peace. They included such general principles as free trade and reduced arms, as well as specifics to end the current war. He also proposed the creation of a General Association of Nations to settle international disputes. When Germany was defeated, he presented his plan at the Versailles Peace Conference. At home, the treaty to end the war and set up the League of Nations was not well received. In spite of the warm welcome the American people gave Wilson, they were tired of commitments in Europe, and many wanted to return to isolationism. Some members of Congress agreed, and other members would only ratify the treaty if major changes were made. Ultimately, the treaty was not adopted. Determined to implement his plan for a League of Nations, Wilson took his case to the people. He crossed America trying to gain public support for the League of Nations. It was a losing battle, and the effort damaged Wilson's health. He suffered a paralyzing stroke in San Francisco and finished the rest of his term in office as an invalid. The League of Nations was ultimately established in Geneva, and in 1919 Wilson received the Nobel Peace Prize for his efforts at the Peace Conference in Versailles. He died on February 3, 1924, and is the only president buried in Washington, D.C.
Woodrow Wilson, a lifetime of accomplishments. Woodrow Wilson sponsored educational reform as president of Princeton University and stood against dishonest politicians as governor of New Jersey. An idealistic man of peace, President Wilson made every effort to stay out of World War I. When it became necessary to fight, Wilson presented a 14-point plan intended to foster cessation of hostilities worldwide and presented it to the Versailles Peace Conference. Wilson's greatest project, the League of Nations, failed in his lifetime, but has taken a new form as the United Nations.